Hello friends, good morning to one and all. Today we are going to study the remaining part of the chapter gaseous state. It is the third unit of chemistry paper second. In my previous lecture we have studied the kinetic molecular theory of gases, postulates of kinetic molecular theory of gases, derivation of kinetic gas equation, ideal and non-ideal gases, deviation of gases from ideal behavior and compressibility factor, derivation of van der Waals equation and units of van der Waals constants. Now today we are going to study the remaining points, that is from 3.3 to 3.6, and they are critical phenomenon where the pressure volume isotherms of carbon dioxide, the application of van der Waals equation to the isotherms of carbon dioxide, a relation between critical constants and van der Waals constants, then liquefaction of gases by Linde's method and Claude's method. Then we have to study molecular velocities like root mean square velocity, average velocity and most probable velocities. Then we have to study the relation between the molecular velocities, then qualitative discussion of Maxwell's distribution of molecular velocities, and then we have to solve some numericals based on van der Waals constants and critical constants and root mean square velocities. Now let us see the first point, that is critical phenomenon, or it is the liquefaction of gases, and it is given by the scientist Andrew in 1869. And according to Andrew, a gas can be liquefied by lowering the temperature and by increasing the pressure. So to understand this concept, we must know what is meant by critical temperature. So critical temperature is denoted by the letter Tc, and it is defined as the temperature above which a gas cannot be liquefied even after application of greater pressure. For example, the critical temperature of carbon dioxide is 31 degrees Celsius. Correct value is 31.1. So round figure is taken here, 31 degrees Celsius. The second term is here critical pressure. It is denoted by the symbol Pc, and it is defined as the minimum pressure required to liquefy the gas at its critical temperature. So critical pressure is the minimum pressure required to liquefy the gas at its critical temperature. Third term is critical volume of the gas. It is denoted by the symbol Vc, and it is defined as the volume occupied by 1 mole of a gas at the critical temperature and critical pressure. So the terms critical temperature, critical pressure and critical volume, they are collectively known as critical constants of the gas, and all real gases have characteristic critical constants. Now there are some critical constants of some common gases are given in this table. Now see here the critical constants for helium. The critical temperature is 5.3 Kelvin, whereas the critical pressure is 2.26 atmospheric pressure and critical volume is 57.8 milliliter per mole. For hydrogen gas, its critical temperature is 33.2, critical pressure is 12.8 and critical volume is 65 ml per mole or milliliter per mole. For nitrogen, the critical temperature is 126 Kelvin, critical pressure is 33.5 atmospheric pressure and its critical volume is 90.1 milliliter per mole. Similarly, for oxygen, the critical temperature is 154.3, critical pressure is 50.1, and critical volume is 74.4 ml per mole. So in this way, the last one here is the sulfur dioxide. Its critical temperature is 430.3 Kelvin. Critical pressure is 77.7 atmospheric pressure, and critical volume is 122.3 milliliter per mole. So these are some examples of the critical constants of some common gases are given. Now we have to study the Andrews isotherms of carbon dioxide. So isotherms are nothing but the pressure volume curves of a gas at constant temperature are called isotherms, and for the ideal gas the isotherm is shown here in this way. The graph is plotted between pressure and volume, and the curve is looks like this one. It is the isotherm of an ideal gas at temperature T. So for the carbon dioxide, the isotherms shown by the Andrew are shown here at different temperatures. So Andrews isotherms of carbon dioxide at different temperatures are shown in this figure. This is the pressure volume graphs or plots. Now from the above figure, it can be seen that there are three types of isotherms. First is isotherms above 31 degrees Celsius. So this is the isotherm above the 31 degrees Celsius, and the isotherms below this 31 degrees Celsius, and the isotherms at 31 degrees Celsius. So these are the three types of isotherms of the carbon dioxide at three or different temperatures, and they are classified in these three types: isotherms above 31 degrees Celsius, isotherms below 31 degrees Celsius, and isotherms at 31 degrees Celsius, as the 31 is the critical temperature of the carbon dioxide. So we have to study the relation between critical constants and van der Waals constants. Now see here the graphs between the pressure and volume, they are plotted, and they are wave like curves, means they are not a continuous, they are, this shows the isotherms of carbon dioxide according to van der Waals equation. So at this particular say from point A, B, then C and D, see here, and this is the portion where there is the liquefaction of gas occurs. This particular point, it is known as the critical point, and the curve obtained at this particular temperature, at the critical temperature, that is known as the critical isotherm. So we have to explain or describe this isotherms. So let us see here the curve BLM. This is the curve, that is BL and M. This curve, this represents the gas compressed in such a way that it would remain stable. This gas is compressed, but it always in the gaseous state, that remains the stable. Whereas the curve M and C, this lower curve, that is M, N and C, this curve, it represents the superheated liquid, means gas is liquefied and it is at high temperature, so it is called a superheated liquid, and such type of the continuity of state is predicted by van der Waals cubic equation. And according to the van der Waals cubic equation, for any given values of pressure and temperature, there should be three values of volume V. and they are V1, V2 and V3 according to the points B, M and C of the wavy curve. Means according to the van der Waals, for any given values of pressure and temperature, there are three values of volume. Means at this particular point B, the volume is, you may consider V1. At the point M, say the volume is V2, and at this particular point C, the volume is V3. And all these three values V1, V2 and V3, they are found to be equal at the critical point. So we can say that at critical point, these values V1, V2 and V3, they becomes same, and that is equal to critical volume. So we can write down this as V is equal to Vc, as V is equal to V1 equals to V2 equals to V3 equals to Vc, or we can also write down as like this, V is equal to Vc, or this V minus Vc equal to 0, as Vc is taken to the left hand side of this equal sign. So we have this equation V minus Vc equal to 0. Now we have to take the cube on both sides of this equation, V minus Vc and here bracket cube equal to 0. So we have to take the cube of this one by using this formula, that is a minus b cube equals to a cube minus thrice a square b plus thrice a b square minus b cube. So by solving this, we have this equation, that is v cube, here in the place of a, here is v, so it is v cube minus, as there is thrice a square b, a is here v and b is Vc, so thrice v square Vc plus here is the 3ab square, a is v and b is Vc, so here is plus 3v Vc square minus b cube, b is here Vc, so here minus Vc cube equals to 0. Now suppose it is the first equation number 1. Now, but van der Waals equation for 1 mole of gas is this P plus A by V square into V minus B equals to RT. So we can rearrange this equation or simplify this. This P into V means PV minus P into B is PB plus this A by V square into V, that will be A by V, and then A by V square into minus B, that will be equals to minus AB by V square, and this RT is taken to the left hand side of this equation, so this is minus RT equals to 0. Now to this equation we have to multiply by V square, so multiplying on both sides by V square, so we get this PV cube minus PBV square plus AV minus AB minus RT V square equals to 0, or this equation can be written like this here. This v square terms, they are taken close to each other, so we have this equation P to V cube minus this RT V square minus PB V square plus this AV as it is minus AB as it is equals to 0. Now we have to cancel this P, so we have to divide on both sides by the P, so we get this V cube minus in bracket RT by P plus P plus B into V square minus A by P into V minus AB by P equals to 0. At critical temperature and pressure, the above equation can be written like this here. Instead of T, here is the Tc, and instead of P, here is Pc. So above equation becomes this V cube minus RTc by Pc plus B into V square minus A by Pc into V minus AB by Pc equals to 0. This is suppose equation number 3. Now we have these two equations. Equation 1 is V minus 3V square into Vc plus 3V into Vc square minus Vc cube equal to 0. This is equation 1. And the third equation is this one, V cube minus in bracket RTC by PC plus B into V square minus A by PC into V minus AB by PC equal to 0. This is suppose equation number 3. So by equating the coefficients in equation 1 and 3, we get this equation, thrice Vc equals to RTC by PC plus B. Suppose this is equation number 4, and this thrice Vc square equals to A by PC, or this Vc square equals to A by PC, sorry, A by thrice PC. So you should remember that here this thrice Vc is equal to RTC by PC plus B, means here consider here is the Vc, this thrice Vc, in the place of this thrice Vc in this equation is this term RTC by PC plus B, this RTC by PC plus B as it is here, and this here thrice Vc square, and that is equals to this A by PC. So we have this equation, thrice Vc square equal to A by PC. So we can rearrange this equation like this, Vc square, this Vc square as it is, and 3 is taken to the denominator here. So here Vc square is equal to A by thrice PC. This is suppose equation number 5. And this last one, this is the Vc cube. This Vc cube, that is equals to AB by PC. So we should remember that here should be the, by typographical mistake, here is the negative sign, but here should be the positive sign. So we can make this correction that this should be the positive. Now we have to divide equation 6 by equation 5. So we have these equations 5 and 6. So we have to divide this equation 6 by equation 5. So we get Vc is equal to this Vc cube upon Vc square, remaining is only Vc, equals to this A by PC as it is, and it becomes inverse as there is in division this A by PC, that becomes thrice PC by A in multiplication. So Vc equal to AB by PC into thrice PC by A. So what will be remaining, this A and this A, that will be gets cancelled, this PC and this PC, that will also gets cancelled, remaining is only 3 and this B. So that will be remaining part of this one, that is Vc equal to thrice B. Suppose this is equation number 7. So we have to put up this equation or the value of Vc in equation 5. So this is the equation number 5, and in this equation we have to put up this thrice B in the place of Vc. As here is Vc square, so the square of this thrice B means that will be 9B square equals to this A by PC as it is, A by thrice PC. Or this equation can be rearranged like PC is equal to A upon 27 B square. Suppose this is equation number 8. So by putting the value of Vc and PC from equation 7 and 8 in equation number 4, so we get this, that is thrice 3 into 3b equal to RTC by 1 into 27b square by A plus B. So by putting the value of this Vc and PC in equation 4, so we get this equation. So this one equation, that is PC is equal to 9b minus B into A upon 27 RB square. So 9b minus B means that will be equals to 8b, this A as it is, upon 27 RB square. So we have to solve this one as for TC. So what will be remaining? This 8a as b and this square of this b, that will be cancelled. Remaining is only here 27 rb. So Tc is equal to 8a upon 27 rb. So this is the formula for the calculation of critical temperature. So by knowing the van der Waals constants a and b, the critical constants, that is Pc, Tc and Vc, can be calculated, and vice versa. Now we have to study the next point, that is the molecular velocities. Molecular velocities are here three in our syllabus, that is root mean square velocity, average velocity and most probable velocity. So first of all, see the root mean square velocity. In short, it is known as RMS velocity, and it is denoted by the symbol mu or VRMS. This is the VRMS, and it is defined as the square root of the mean of the squares of different velocities possessed by molecules of gas at a given temperature. So it is called RMS velocity or root mean square velocity, and it is given by the formula Vrms is equal to under root of v1 square plus v2 square plus v3 square plus dash dash plus vn square upon n. So this v1, v2, v3 are the velocities of, say, different molecules, and this n indicates the number of gas molecules. So by using this formula, we can calculate the root mean square velocity. Thus the root mean square velocity is nothing but the mean of the squares of different velocities possessed by molecules of a gas at a given temperature. Now second point is the calculation of RMS velocity or root mean square velocity. So we know that the value of root mean square velocity at a given temperature can be calculated from the kinetic gas equation, that is P into V is equal to 1 by 3 mn into V square RMS. V square RMS means that is the root mean square velocity. But for 1 mole of gas, this equation can be rearranged like this: V square RMS is equal to thrice PV by mn, as V square is taken to this side and PV is to this side. So we have this equation: V square RMS is equals to thrice PV by mn. But for 1 mole of gas, the ideal gas equation is P into V is equal to RT. So instead of this PV, we can put up as RT in this equation. So we get V square RMS is equal to thrice RT by m into n. But we know that the m into n, small m into n, that is nothing but the total mass of gas. Therefore we can replace this m into n as capital M. So this we get this equation: V square RMS is equal to thrice RT upon capital M. Or it can be written like this: VRMS means we have to take the square root on both sides. So we get here VRMS is equal to square root of thrice RT by M, and this is nothing but the RMS velocity of gas at given temperature. And the formula for the calculation of RMS velocity when temperature alone is given, then we have to use this formula, that is Vrms is equal to 1.58 into 10 raised to 4 into under root of T by M in centimeter per second. So this is the formula which is used to calculate the root mean square velocity when temperature alone is given for a gas. Now the second molecular velocity is average velocity. It is denoted by V or VAV. So this AV is for the average, and it is defined as the arithmetic mean of different velocities possessed by molecules of the gas at a given temperature. So the formula to calculate the average velocity is VAV is equal to V1 plus V2 plus V3 plus plus Vn upon n. So this is the formula that is used to calculate the average velocity of a gas at given temperature. But from the Maxwell's equation, the average velocity can be given by the expression that is VAV is equal to under root of 8 RT by pi m. So from the Maxwell's equation, the average velocity or the formula for the average velocity is this one, that is V average is equal to under root of 8 RT by pi m. Now the third molecular velocity in our syllabus is most probable velocity. It is denoted by the symbol alpha or VMP. EMP stands for the most probable, and it is defined as the velocity possessed by maximum number of molecules of a gas at a given temperature. So most probable velocity is nothing but the velocity possessed by maximum number of molecules of a gas at given temperature. And according to the calculations made by Maxwell, most probable velocity is given by the expression this VMP or alpha is equal to under root of twice RT by m. So this is the formula given by Maxwell in order to calculate the most probable velocity of gas at given temperature. Now we have to study the relation between average velocity and RMS velocity or root mean square velocity. Now we know that average velocity is given by the formula is V average is equal to under root of 8 RT by pi m. Suppose this is equation 1, and we also know that the formula for root mean square velocity, it is Vrms is equal to under root of thrice RT by m. Suppose this is equation number 2. Now we have to divide equation 1 by 2. So we get this V average upon Vrms is equal to under root of this 8 RT by pi m as it is into inverse of this, that is the m by thrice RT. So here this RT and this RT that will be gets cancelled, this m and the m that also gets cancelled. What is remaining? Remaining is here V average upon Vrms is equal to under root of 8 upon 3 pi, and by solving this 8 upon 3 pi we have this value that is 0.9213, which is a constant value, and this equation can be rearranged like this: V average or average velocity is equal to 0.9213 into RMS velocity or Vrms. So this equation gives the relation between average velocity and most probable root mean square velocity. V average is equal to 0.9213 into Vrms. So this is the formula which shows the relation between average velocity and root mean square velocity. Now next we have to find the relation between most probable velocity and RMS velocity. Now we know the expression for the most probable velocity is here Vmp is equal to under root of twice RT by m, and we also know the formula for the root mean square velocity, and it is Vrms is equal to under root of thrice RT by m. Suppose this is equation 2. Now here to get the relation between most probable velocity and root mean square velocity, we have to divide equation 1 by equation 2. So we get this formula, that is Vmp upon Vrms, means most probable velocity upon root mean square velocity, is equal to this under root of twice RT by m as it is into inverse of this one. So that is equal to m by thrice RT, and here this RT and this RT gets cancelled, this m and m that also gets cancelled. What is remaining in the square root, that is this one, that is under root of 2 by 3, and by solving this we have a constant value, that is 0.8165, and by rearranging this equation we have this equation, that is VMP, or most probable velocity, is equal to 0.8165 into Vrms, and this equation gives the relation between most probable velocity and root mean square velocity. Now we have to study the Maxwell's distribution of molecular velocities. Now, while deriving the kinetic gas equation, it was assumed that all molecules in the gas have the same velocity, but in actual practice all molecules have no same velocity. Yes, but it is not so. When two molecules collide, then one molecule transfers its kinetic energy to the other molecule. And therefore, the velocity of the molecule which gains energy increases and that of the other molecule decreases. However, even though the individual velocities are changing, the distribution of molecular velocities remains unchanged at any particular temperature, and this distribution of molecular velocities is known as Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution. So in 1860, Maxwell calculated distribution of velocities from law of probability, and he derived the equation for the distribution of molecular velocities, and it is shown here, dnc by n equal to 4 pi into in bracket m by twice pi rt raised to 3 by 2 into e raised to minus m c square upon twice rt into c square dc. This relation is called Maxwell's law of distribution of velocities, and the meanings of these letters are here. This dnc by n is nothing but the fraction of the number of molecules having velocities between c and c plus dc. Capital N indicates the total number of molecules. Capital M indicates the molecular mass. Capital T indicates the temperature of the gas in Kelvin, and capital R, that indicates the molar gas constant. For simplicity or for our convenience, Maxwell plotted a graph between fraction of molecules and molecular velocities, and it is shown below here. So this is called distribution of molecular velocities in the gas here nitrogen. So nitrogen gas is taken. The graph is plotted between fraction of molecules and molecular velocities at two different temperatures, at 300 Kelvin, and this is at 600 Kelvin, and these points that indicates the most probable velocities at these two temperatures, 300 and 600 Kelvins. And if we observe carefully this curve or graph, then we can conclude, or three important conclusions can be drawn from these graphs, and they are: first one is a very small fraction of molecules have either very low or very high velocities. This is the first conclusion can be drawn from this graph. Second conclusion is at high temperature more molecules have higher velocities and few means less molecules have lower velocities. This is the second conclusion. And last is most intermediate fractions of molecules have velocities close to an average velocity. So these three important conclusions can be drawn from this diagram, that is distribution of molecular velocities. The example is taken nitrogen gas here. Now we have to study some definitions, that is collision number. So what is collision number? Collision number is nothing but the number of collisions per second per unit volume is called collision number, and it is calculated using this formula, that is collision number is equal to average velocity upon mean free path. So mean free path, that must be known to us. So we have to define this term mean free path. It is denoted by the symbol lambda, and this mean free path is nothing but the mean distance traveled by a molecule between two successive collisions is called mean free path. It is denoted by the symbol lambda, and it is calculated using this formula, that is lambda or mean free path is equal to distance traveled by molecule per second divided by number of collisions. So this is the formula used to calculate the mean free path. Now for example, let's consider this L1, L2, L3 are free paths of molecule of a gas, and its mean free path can be calculated using this formula, that is lambda is equal to L1 plus L2 plus L3 upon N. So in this way, see here, N indicates the number of gas molecules. So this is the mean free path traveled. So this molecule collides with this molecule, and the distance between this particular collision, it is called free path. And mean of these three paths, that is free paths L1, L2 and L3, that is called here mean free path. And this mean free path is directly proportional to temperature and inversely proportional to pressure. Means with increase in temperature, mean free path increases, and with increase in pressure, mean free path decreases. Now the next term we have to study is here collision diameter, which is denoted by the symbol sigma, and it is also known as molecular diameter. It is defined as collision diameter is nothing but the closed distance between the centers of two molecules taking part in a collision is called collision diameter. It is represented by this diagram, that is, suppose these are the two gas molecules very close to each other, and the closed distance between the centers of these two molecules taking part in collision. So these are the two molecules which are taking part in the collision, and the distance between the centers of the two molecules, it is called collision diameter. It is denoted by the symbol sigma. Smaller the collision diameter, larger will be mean free path. Means here we can say that the collision diameter is inversely proportional to mean free path. Now in our syllabus, this is the last point, that is the liquefaction of gases, and it is carried out by various methods, but in our syllabus there are two methods, and first is the Linde's method, that is the method used for the liquefaction of gases, or we can say that this method is used to convert gas into liquid. Now this method is based on the principle of Joule-Thomson effect, and we can say that here this Joule-Thomson effect is nothing but if a gas is expanded adiabatically, then temperature falls down, or in other words you can say that when a compressed gas is allowed to expand into vacuum or into a region of low pressure, then it produces intense cooling. So on this principle, or based on this principle, the liquefaction of gas is carried out by the scientist Linde. And two most important things we must know, that is, first is in a compressed gas, the gas molecules are very close and the attractions between them are appreciable, means considerable. As the gas expands, the molecules of the gas move apart, and in doing so, the intermolecular attraction between them must be overcome, and the energy required to overcome the intermolecular force, the gas takes this energy from itself, and that's why it undergoes cooling, or it is cooled. Now, in this Linde's method, the air free from moisture is compressed and then allowed to expand, due to which it is further cooled according to Joule-Thomson effect. And this gas is then passed through copper tube with a jet at the lower end. Here it is further cooled by liquid air at very low temperature, and it is shown by this figure. This is the Linde's method for liquefaction of air. Now from this end the air is passed. This is the inlet of air. It is then compressed. Here is the pump, or we can say that compressor. This air or gas is compressed and it is then allowed to pass through this particular, say here, condenser or cooler. Here is the receiver for water. The gas is cooled, means here the temperature of the compressed gas, that is cooled or lowered, and then this gas is allowed to pass through this pipe, and then it enters into a spiral pipe of copper having jet at the lower part. This is the copper spiral with jet J, and it is then allowed to expand. So according to Joule-Thomson effect, this gas is cooled, so it undergoes liquefaction. This is liquefied air or liquefied gas, and it is then collected from the bottom. So here is the outlet, and the gas which is not liquefied, it is then again passed through this compressor. It is compressed and then the same thing is repeated. So this is the Linde's method for liquefaction of gases. So it can be briefly studied or explained like this. In this method, pure and dry air is compressed to about 200 atmospheres, and it is then passed through a cooled through a pipe cooled by ice cold water or by refrigerating liquid like ammonia. Here heat of compression is removed, and this compressed air is then passed through a spiral pipe with jet, means narrow end. At the lower end, this free expansion of the air at the jet results in a considerable drop of temperature, means temperature lowers down, and this cooled air is now at about 1 atmospheric pressure. It is then passed up the expansion chamber. It is further cools the incoming air and the spiral tube, air of the spiral tube, and returns to the compressor. The compressed air is then allowed to expand, due to which it is further cooled according to Joule-Thomson effect, and this air is then passed through entire cycle for number of times, and liquefied air is collected from the bottom of the chamber. So this is the Linde's method for liquefaction of gases. Now next method for liquefaction of gases or air is Claude's method. So this method is also used to convert gas into liquid, and it is also based on the same principle, that is Joule-Thomson effect, which is nothing but the when gas is expanded adiabatically, then temperature falls down. So in this method, the air free from moisture is forced to do additional work by moving a piston and then passed through copper tube, means spiral copper tube having a jet at the end. It is cooled by liquid air at very low temperature, and its diagram is shown like this. So the difference between Linde's method and Claude's method is only here. In the Claude's method, here the gas has allowed to do additional work, means additional work is done by gas here by moving this particular piston. So remaining is same thing. So this is nothing but the Claude's method for liquefaction of gases. So here the compressed air is then allowed to expand, due to which it is further cooled according to Joule-Thomson effect. So this here the compressed gas is allowed to pass through this condensing coil. Here is the receiver. It may be ice cold water or it may be refrigerating liquid, and here this gas is allowed to pass and then allowed to move these pistons, means the gas uh, has allowed to do some additional work by moving this piston, so that gas again cooled, and this cooled gas again then allowed to pass through this spiral copper tube with jet J at the lower part, and here the gas is allowed to expand freely, so it gets cooled by Joule-Thomson effect, and this liquefied gas is collected at the bottom, and this air then allowed to pass through the entire cycle for number of times, and liquefied air is collected from the bottom of the chamber. So this is the Claude's method. So in this way we have completed the third unit, gaseous state. Now let's take the review of this chapter. In my previous lecture we have studied this kinetic molecular theory of gases, postulates of kinetic theory of gases, derivation of kinetic gas equation, ideal and non-ideal gases, deviation of gases from ideal behavior and compressibility factor Z, derivation of van der Waals equation, units of van der Waals constants. And in my today's lecture we have studied critical phenomenon, the pressure volume isotherms of carbon dioxide, application of van der Waals equation to the isotherms of carbon dioxide. We have studied the relation between critical constants and van der Waals constants. We also studied liquefaction of gases by Linde's method and Claude's method. Then molecular velocities like root mean square, average and most probable velocities, relation between molecular velocities, qualitative discussion of the Maxwell distribution of molecular velocities. And now in my next video we will study the numericals of van der Waals constant and critical constants and root mean square velocities. So thank you for watching the complete video. Stay home and stay safe. Keep it watching. So thank you once again.